Hello, we are live, coming at you from beautiful Kingsport, Tennessee, where it's gray and overcast and cold, but it's not as cold as it used to be a few days ago. So we're not in the Arctic vortex anymore. But welcome to today's program, and I've got a lot I want to cover today, as this is an important topic. I had a good conversation with a young fella yesterday who really struggles with this issue, and I know people, pastorally speaking, that struggle with the issue of what does it mean to partake of the Lord's Supper worthily. I think that that's kind of an unfortunate translation of the term anaxios that's used there, that's translated um, unworthy. Really, the term means careless, which really changes the meaning if you reflect on that, because many people, when they examine themselves, are examining themselves in such a way as to see, am I worthy enough to take the Lord's Supper? And that really negates the whole purpose of the Lord's Supper, the whole point of the whole thing. And so, let me read a quotation from John Calvin. This is one of the best paragraphs that I have ever read from anybody on this issue. John Calvin wrote this quote: "In seeking to prepare for eating the Lord's Supper worthily, men have often dreadfully harassed and tortured miserable consciences, and yet have failed to reach their goal. They have said that you must be, quote, in a state of grace, end quote, in order to eat worthily. What does it mean to be in a state of grace? They have interpreted this to mean being pure and free from all sin. By this definition, all the men that have ever been and all who are on the earth now are barred from the use of this sacrament. For if we are to seek our worthiness from ourselves, it is all over for us. Only despair and fatal ruin await us. Though we struggle to the utmost, we will not only make no progress, but we will only be more unworthy after we have labored most to make ourselves worthy." Now, listen to this. To cure this ulcer, they have devised a mode of procuring worthiness. This is what Rome was teaching, and sadly, I think a lot of evangelical churches teach this too. Here it is: "After having, as far as we can, made an examination and taken an account of all our actions, we are to be cleansed of our unworthiness by contrition, confession, and satisfaction. I say that such things, at best, give poor and fleeting comfort to alarmed and downcast consciences, struck with terror at their sins." Okay, just stop from the quotation here. Have you ever been struck with terror at your sins? I think there are a lot of people that sit in churches, maybe even men that get in pulpits, who have never been struck with terror at their sins. But I want to say, until that happens, you don't understand. You're not going to understand who Jesus Christ is or what he did. Calvin continues, "For if the Lord admits only the righteous and innocent to partake of his supper, every man would have to be very cautious before feeling that he had righteousness of his own, which God requires. How can we be assured that we have truly done everything in our power to discharge our duty to God? Even if we could be assured of this, who would then venture to assure himself that he, in fact, had done all that he could do? So we would have no certain security for our worthiness, and access to the supper would always be excluded by the fearful warning: whoever therefore eats the bread or drinks the cup of the Lord in an unworthy manner will be guilty concerning the body and blood of the Lord." 1 Corinthians 11:27. It is now easy to judge what is the nature and who is the author of this kind of teaching. Certainly, the devil could have no shorter method of destroying men than by thus excluding them from the taste and savor of this food, which their most merciful Father in heaven is pleased to feed them. To avoid running off such a cliff, let us remember that this sacred feast is medicine to the sick, comfort to the sinner, bounty to the poor. Okay, stop it right there. Who is the Lord's Supper for? Is it for those who are righteous and worthy in themselves? No. It's for sinners. It's for the poor. It's for the hungry. It's for the spiritually impoverished. Listen to that again. Calvin says, to avoid running off such a cliff, Let us remember that this sacred feast is medicine to the sick, comfort to the sinner, and bounty to the poor. Okay, stop there. Folks, Christian faith, the biblical gospel, the Lord's Supper, is for sinful people. It's not for the righteous. Certainly not for people who regard themselves as righteous. It's for sinful people. It's for people who are not happy with themselves. It's for people who are unhappy with their present level of sanctification. It's for people who don't see in themselves the spiritual goods that they know they need but can never earn. He says this: to the healthy, the righteous, and the rich, if any could be found, the Lord's Supper would be of no value, for Christ has given us for food in the supper, and we perceive that without him we fail and waste away. Just as hunger destroys the vigor of the body, as he is given to us for life, so we perceive that without him we are certainly dead. So the best and only worthiness we can bring to God is to offer him our own vileness and unworthiness, that his mercy may make us worthy, to despond in ourselves, that we may be consoled in him, to humble ourselves, that we may be elevated by him, to accuse ourselves, that we may be justified by him. Now, before I dig a little bit more into this precious topic, and there's a lot more I'd like to go through today on this, I want to give you a little update about what happened last week. Last week was certainly one of the hardest weeks of my entire life, for sure. On Monday, I go to a gym, and not like real serious, working out, but I do try to work out a little bit because I don't have a job that requires a whole lot of physical labor. I read and study, and I visit with people and things like that. I drive a lot. So if I'm not deliberate about trying to exercise, it just doesn't happen. And Monday, there was a very distinct moment that suddenly started having pain in my chest, and it was working its way up my neck a little bit. And I just blew it off and didn't think anything of it. But it was painful enough, it was uncomfortable enough. I stopped my workout. Same thing happened Tuesday, a little bit worse. Same thing happened Wednesday, a little bit worse. Same thing happened Thursday, and I almost passed out while I was working out, and started sweating. And I thought, wow, something something is really wrong. So I went and picked up my daughter from Kingsport Christian Academy. She takes a Spanish class there. I picked her up, and on the way back to home, I said, sweetheart, I've got a problem. There is something wrong with me. I've never experienced anything like this before. I've got tightness and pressure inside my chest that's working its way up my neck. So I went to a cardiologist, Christian cardiologist, who in the area here, who I know is a good friend, and they did an EKG and blood pressure and everything, and there was nothing wrong with my heart as far as he could tell. Everything was beating normal and fine. The blood pressure was fine. He said, but what you're describing sounds like you've got blockage somewhere. So he ordered a heart cath, and that was on Friday, or last Friday. The heart cath was going to be on Monday morning, which it was, thankfully. Saturday and Sunday were two of the hardest days of my life so far. I have never experienced that kind of overwhelming feeling of doom. And I really thought I was dying. And a couple times I was laying in bed and came downstairs, and I told my wife, said, I think you might need to take me to the ER. I said, something is really, really wrong. I felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. But then it would go away. I'd chew up a baby aspirin and go lay down again. But Sunday night, Sunday, I was not able to preach. I tried to see if I'd be able to on Friday. I tried to see if I'd be able to Saturday. Tried to just read out loud from my manuscript. I couldn't do it. I thought, if I try to preach Sunday, I'm going to end up having to stop 5 minutes in and then sit down, and that's going to freak everybody out, and it'd be irresponsible for me to do that. So I told the elders, like, you got to get our intern to preach. I can't do it. There's no way I can preach like this. So Sunday night, laying in bed and just thinking, you know, thanking God for the gospel. I felt like I felt like I was going to die. I really did. I really thought I might die. Monday morning, got up at my appointment for the heart cath was at 7:15 a.m. So got up real early, got in the car. My wife drove me there, and they put an IV in and loaded me up with something and ran that heart cath through my wrist. And they found in my as I understand it, my right is aortic or what is it called? One of the really important arteries, aortic. Why am I not remembering? Aortic or um, the one of the big arteries was 90% blocked, and the surgeon fixed it, cleared it out, put a stent in, and when I was kind of back to the real world after the sedative wore off, he stood in the room there with me and said, "Well, that the cardiologist made a good call to send you in here." He said, "You were on the edge of a what could have been a catastrophic level heart attack." So I was like, "Wow." But that was Monday. So here we are Thursday. And last Thursday when we did this live program, I was not feeling real well. That was the day I knew something was really wrong. But that really has gotten to me. And my grandfather had a heart attack when he was 52 years old. It was pretty serious, but he managed to live till he was about um, 80. But heart disease is what got my dad and my grandfather's up both sides on both trees all the way up. Heart issues. My great grandfather was a Baptist minister who died when he was 44 of a heart attack. So it runs in the family, and I have erroneously made the assumption that if I exercise, I can eat whatever I want. And that is just not the case. That's just not the case at all. And so I've been pretty, it really has gotten to me. It really has upset me. And I've taken some walks and have praised God and thanked Him for my life. And um, so that was what happened last week. And one of my children is calling me over and over and over and over again right now. So I don't know what that means. So I should probably sign off because that might mean that something's wrong with my house. So I apologize for that. Actually, it's recording a voicemail. Let me see. It will do this thing now where it will transcribe the voicemail. Let's see if there's anything. If it's nothing serious, I'll try to keep going on the program today. What? Beep-a-doo-doo-doo-doo. What is she saying? All right. I think. What is she trying to say here? All right, I'm sorry. I've got to go. I've been called 3 times by my eldest daughter that lives at home, and I don't know what that means. So sorry about that. We'll do another live program next week, and I'll hit this issue in much more detail. But so I guess this is just kind of a health update program. But thank you all for praying, and love you all. And thank just real quick, Sonia, Robert Bogler, Chris Machin, Paul Garvey, Susan, Sonia. Yeah, good to see you guys over there. Sorry to cut the program short today, but so just you can just I guess we could retitle this one the health update. But I'm doing fine now. They said they got real good blood flow and everything is changing now. Everything is changing. So I'm gonna have to um, change a lot of things. Only eating heart friendly foods right now. So anyway, love you all. Thank you for watching or listening.